Hi, I'm Ben,
And I'm Ernie.
and this is Budget Nerds.
You are not alone.
No, you are not. And we're going to talk about a very nerdy subject today, the yearly rollover, because we're planning on releasing this right at the end of 2020, thank goodness, into 2021. And we're just going to talk about what we do, if there's anything special that we do with our budgets when the new year arrives. And now, when we talked about holiday spending, Ernie felt like he was the imposter nerd because he doesn't really do a whole lot of special stuff in the budget for holiday spending, but I did, and now I'm the shoe's on the other foot because I feel like I'm the imposter nerd because for me, the yearly rollover, it's really just another month. I don't really do anything special. But you do, Ernie. So I think you'll be the main one talking today. And I've been really excited to hear about this.
I do. It's a big deal for me. And I feel like I'm in the minority here, though, because most people that I've talked to don't do fresh starts at the beginning of the year or do fresh starts in general. They just keep that same budget and like it going. They like all that data, right? But for me, I do a fresh start every January 1st. I've been doing it this way for 3, 4, 5 years. I don't even know. I lost track.
Awesome. Yeah. And you mentioned this in another episode, and everybody's like, I want to hear about why Ernie does a fresh start. And so we knew we had to do an episode on this. So for anybody that doesn't know what a fresh start is, why don't you talk about that a little bit, Ernie? What is a fresh start?
Yeah, fresh start is a great way to just start a brand new budget, but not completely from scratch. And that's what I love about it. So it's going to wipe out all your transaction history and just basically start with your accounts at zero, or if they're linked, it'll bring in that current balance that you have. And then you just have a fresh pile of cash that you can rebudget. And the fresh start will bring in scheduled transactions from your old budget along with the goals. So any customization that you have set up in the budget, that's going to carry over. So that's really nice. But then, the big point is that all those transactions are wiped out, clean slate, and you get to start with that fresh pile of cash.
Start fresh. Yeah. So it's an actual feature in the budget where you can make a fresh start. It keeps a copy of your old budget file if you ever want to look back at it. Yeah. Creates a new budget file with all your categories and all that stuff intact. It just swipes out all your budgeting and all your spending. So everything's clean and fresh, right? And
absolutely,
people do fresh starts for like lots of reasons. I mean, I think the main reason folks do a fresh start is often when you first start, and maybe you start using YNAB and then you learn more about it and you're like, oh, I actually want to change up how I'm using it. You might do a fresh start then, or maybe you fell off the wagon for a little while and you didn't keep up with your budget for a few months. Doing a fresh start then would be a good reason, but you don't have to have like a big problem or like a problem in your budget to do a fresh start. You do it just for kicks every year. So
two purposes. One is just some housekeeping items, and then two, just to take a fresh look at my priorities, my dollars, my goals. So let's talk about the housekeeping stuff first. So I like to delete any old accounts that aren't used. This isn't really something I do a lot of right now because we're not, for those of you that have listened to previous episodes, you know that I do some credit card churning. My wife and I do. We don't really do that as much anymore. So we're not opening and closing accounts. So there really aren't many accounts that I have to delete at the end of the year. And in fact, this year when I do a fresh start, I think there's only going to be one account that I need to delete. But I like having those all nice and tidy and taken care of.
Yeah, you don't want that like annoying closed accounts tab there. Like
absolutely, it drives me nuts. Yeah, and then I also clean up.
Do some housekeeping. What else do you do for that?
I also clean up my categories.
Okay.
Because I don't like having the hidden categories at the bottom. Again, I don't know.
They're hidden, but they're there. And
I know they're there. Yeah,
I know exactly what you mean.
I delete those. And also just it's nice to take a second look or third, fourth, or 50th look at your categories and see, okay, is this actually the structure that I want? And then this is super nerdy. I clean up my payees.
So you actually like go into manage payees and
I do.
This is something that maybe people don't know about. There's like it's kind of a sneaky little hidden feature on the web app. I think it's web app only. there's a manage payees option, and you can like set rules on pays. You can combine them, you can delete them, rename them. So
I'll
you
go
clean that
in
up.
and I'll delete all those payees that I know were just kind of one-time things. Get rid of those, and then I'll do a lot of combining. Like I'll combine the payees I created with their import counterpart, because those come in pretty ugly. So I like cleaning those up.
Yeah. Oh gosh. Yeah. I mean, I talked about this before. I hate those nasty payees that come in with importing. So that's good.
And those are the housekeeping items. And you know, when I'm looking at cleaning up accounts, payees, and categories, we're talking like 10 minutes here.
Okay.
It really doesn't take that long.
Okay. So that's the nerdiest bit. But then the rest of it is just kind of a perspective shift, right?
Exactly. And so what I'll do is I'll go through, because I use a budget template. So I have goals set up on probably 95, 97% of my categories, right? And I'll just take another look at those goals. Is that still kind of in line with what we want? And is it in line with what we've actually been budgeting and spending? You know, and this is where I start looking at some of the data from the previous year. Again, I don't get really nerdy with old data, but the piece I do look at is the average budgeted and average spent in the quick budget. And I just kind of like to go through especially my immediate obligations, and just make sure like, okay, my goal is kind of in line with what I've actually been spending. And, you know, there's probably 1 or 2 adjustments I'll make to my goals every year.
I do that from time to time, where I'll notice, like I'll compare like the average spent with the goal amount, and sometimes I'm like, whoa, it's actually way over, and maybe my goal has been lower, and I've actually had to move money into that category a lot. And so you might have to admit, like, actually I do spend more on restaurants or on groceries or whatever than I think I do, you know?
Yes.
So when you're going through, like when you're actually budgeting, because you got when you do the fresh start, you got a big pile of cash, just it all goes into to be budgeted. And then you can decide, just like the first day you started budgeting, right? So do you look at your old budget when you're putting those numbers in, or do you just try to like,
I do.
Totally.
And this is probably, you're probably going to think this is pretty silly, but I have the old budget. I have the old budget open on my mobile app, right?
Okay.
And I just, on the web app, I just type in the same exact numbers.
Okay.
So for that, you know,
well, that's what I was wondering, is like, do you end up with pretty much the same budget, or, but
at first I do.
Right. Okay.
But then once I plug in all those numbers, okay, just go start looking at everything, trying to look at it with fresh eyes. And I guess you could make the argument I'm not actually looking at it with fresh eyes if I'm using the same exact budget from the previous year, but it works for me. And
well, you need that information. I mean, because a lot of stuff is going to have to stay the same, right? So
well, especially with the true expenses. Like I worked really hard to save all year for those, and I want to make sure that carries over into the new budget. So
right. So it's not like it's not like you're flipping the table, going crazy. But it's an opportunity, you know, to
it is an opportunity. And you know, last year it was during this fresh start that I realized, I have an opportunity here to get a month ahead.
Right.
And so that's what I did, and just completely
you might not have
shifted some things.
Do you think you would have realized that without doing this exercise, doing the fresh start?
I don't know if I would have, because again, it was an opportunity for me to just pause and really think deeply about my money.
Right.
And so if for nothing else, it gives me space to think about budgeting.
It makes me think about, like, what am I missing? You know, what's some opportunity that I'm not thinking about, because I haven't done a fresh start in a long time. So I have done a fresh start. I'm actually not sure I've done a fresh start for the new year. I think I did a fresh start like once, like in March or something random like that, just to get a clean slate.
So what are you scared of, Ben? Why won't you do the fresh start? Is it the data?
You know, okay, yeah, this is something I wanted to ask you about, because I know these budget nerds love their reports.
Yep.
Right. So like, what about the data? I mean, like you still have it, in your old budget, right? You can always go back and look at it, but like it's not there in front of you. Like, do you ever like miss not having it all in one budget file?
I don't use the reports. I don't use the spending report. I don't use the income versus expense report. I don't know. It's never influenced my budgeting, and it's never helped with anything.
You know, I gotta say, I'm kind of the same way. Sometimes I like to look at it because it's kind of fun to look at, especially the trends on the spending report. Like it's just kind of, oh, this is kind of neat. But really, the only number I really need when I'm trying to decide how much to budget is average spent, and that's right there in the quick budget.
Exactly.
That's really the only main thing I look at. And you're already doing that when you're doing the fresh start. So
yep.
You know,
that's rolling everything up and okay, I spent $3,000 on dining out last year. Like, okay, I don't know. That just doesn't do it for me.
Well, and I think a lot of folks maybe put a little bit too much stock in the reports, and because you can even almost be kind of hamstrung by your past data if you're not careful, because you could look back and say like, okay, what was my light bill 4 years ago? And I got a budget based on that or something, but you don't think about, well, I lived in a different house 4 years ago. So of course my light bill is going to be different, you know, or something like that. I think our lives change so much, even as we get older, that, you know, things stabilize a little bit more, but our lives are going to change a lot. And so I think it can even be to your detriment if you rely too much on those reports, if they're reflecting a previous lifestyle that you don't have now, you know?
Yeah, so, very possible. And I wonder if those people that really like the reports, maybe they're thinking of categories more in terms of not month to month, but throughout the course of a year. Like, I want to spend $600 on clothes for a year instead of I want to spend $50 a month. You know, I've always just thought of budgeting as a monthly thing.
Right.
And so rolling things up into a year, I don't know.
Yeah, mostly I just like look at it and it's like, oh, that's kind of cool. I mean, there's things I wish I had, because I've done several fresh starts over the year, probably like four. I think I have like 4 budget files over the past 7 years. So and I've done fresh starts for lots of reasons. Like when I came over from YNAB 4 to the new YNAB, I did a fresh start then. When I had a baby, I did a fresh start then. You know, things like that. But the only thing that I think is kind of a bummer is I see like on Reddit and stuff, like folks post these huge long net worth reports, you know?
I know.
That are like 10 years, and it looks really cool. I kind of wish I had that.
Are awesome. But yeah, I do miss that net worth data that I lose, because the net worth report is the one that I actually look at month to month. I just like kind of monitoring that number. And I've always thought, it'd be super cool if I had like my entire YNAB history net worth right there for me. But
I mean, if you want to get real nerdy, maybe you can create like 1 mega budget file and just like input the monthly amounts for all this time, and then you'd have one net worth chart. But
I get tired just thinking about having to maintain budgets. So
no. I would think of this as just a one-time thing. But then you can just kind of look at it and be like, cool. Okay. Moving on, you know. I think that's what it is. So
I'll say this too about old data. I do keep old budgets around. So I used to delete those, and I would only have my one budget file. But then there were times I was like, you know, we wanted to, what was that ice cream shop we visited on vacation 2 years ago? And I'm like, I deleted all that data. Right. So now I keep that around, and really that's the only time I go back into the old budgets, is to look at, you know, where did we eat out during this whatever.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So there's some good reasons to keep that old data around, and what I like too is it's out of sight. It's not like, you know, it's not like it's always muddling up your data in your current budget. So it can actually be really a benefit. Yeah, if you want to find that specific piece of information. I've done that too. Like I'm thinking about like I built a fence in my yard. And I built it myself, and so I had to buy a bunch of supplies. And then like a tree landed and fell on part of the fence, right? And this was a long time ago when I actually bought those supplies. So I'm like, how much did all that cost? You know? And I could pull up an old budget file and find out what I spent on like a small section of the fence and see how much it cost.
There we go.
So you could do things like that. That's helpful. But otherwise, you don't really need it right in front of your face all the time. So
yeah, at least I don't. So
yeah, cool.
I'm curious if you were to do a fresh start, right? What would yours look like? I mean, would you be doing things that I outlined or something different?
Yeah, I hadn't thought about the payees at all. I think that's something I want to do anyway, because I think I have a bunch of random payees I haven't ever looked at. In fact, there's even some things I want to do, like I don't really need to know how much money I spent at the Exxon versus the Citgo versus the Sheets. You know what I mean? I just want to call it all gas station,
Sure.
Because I've had to like put in the specific pay. So like maybe like broaden those pays a little bit.
Okay.
I might want to do that. So yeah, I think I would be more interested in some of the nerdy stuff like you talked about, like getting rid of old hidden categories, getting rid of some closed accounts, fixing those pays. But for me, I think, yeah, probably I would pretty much stick to the same thing, especially for true expenses. But there's some other categories that I think I would rethink a little bit. Maybe even rethink the complexity actually a little bit, because you talked about budget structure, and it's I think if you do a fresh start, it's a really good opportunity to like change up your categories a lot, because you don't have to hide them. You can delete them. Yeah, right? Just get rid of them completely. It could, because you don't have any data associated with it. And so, yeah, for that reason, that might be a good time to maybe simplify my categories or something like that. I think that's the main thing I would do. My true expenses probably would stay the same, but I would think I would simplify a few things. So.
Okay. And do you and your wife do any big like planning for big purchases during the year, during January?
Yeah. Oh, we don't really necessarily like look to the, like, you mean at the beginning of the year, like to say, what do we want to buy this year? Not really. I mean, we obviously plan when we want to make a big purchase, but we pretty much just do it whenever we are thinking about it.
Yeah, we're in the same boat.
Yeah, yeah. Although it might be cool to be like, hey, like this year we're gonna have a theme, and this is what we're going to be focusing on this year. Maybe call your budget that theme if you're doing a new budget file or something like that. Right. That could be a cool thing. It could be a kind of a vision time, for you or for you and your partner if you're budgeting with a partner. So yeah, that could be kind of cool. I don't know. So, if you guys want to try what Ernie's trying, let us know. I think a lot of people were really interested in it, because I think a lot of people don't realize the fresh start option is not just for if you mess stuff up or if you fell off the wagon for a while. You don't have to have a reason, like a bad reason to do a fresh start. You can just do it if you feel like it. And
I just like making a fresh start. It's just fun. Spoken like a true budget nerd.
It's good. Yeah. Cool. Well, I think we'll leave it at that. Anything you want to add, Ernie?
No, I don't think so. I think, what's your hear from the community what their January 1st routine is, if they have anything, and
I'd love to hear it.
Continue the discussion there.
All right. Well, thanks everybody. We'll talk to you later, and happy budgeting.
Yeah, happy budgeting.
See you guys.